Welcome back to the deep dive. Grab a comfortable chair and maybe a stiff drink because today we are charting some really volatile territory in television. The strategic high-wire act of soap opera writing. We are diving deep into The Bold and the Beautiful, specifically looking at the meticulous, sometimes kind of cold calculations the writers and head writer Brad Bell make when they're dealing with big character shifts.
Yeah, and we've got a stack of fascinating source material here. It really details these character exits that just scream temporary fill-in,
Yeah.
and also these redemption arcs that use, well, pretty shocking twists to defy all logic, legal, and narrative.
Okay, so the sources really give us this unprecedented look at the true mechanics of B&B, don't they?
Absolutely right. It shows us that every return, every single disappearance, every shocking twist, it's maybe less about organic storytelling sometimes and more about managing the cast roster.
Right.
Addressing fan demands maybe and just ensuring maximum drama, but with minimal long-term commitment in some cases.
Gotcha. So our mission today is kind of twofold then.
Exactly. First, we need to analyze these really stark red flags surrounding Thomas Forrester's very quick return and his even quicker rumored departure. We got to lay bare the theory that he was basically nothing more than a carefully used placeholder.
Okay.
And second, we absolutely have to dissect the unbelievable plot armor that's currently protecting Luna Nozawa. And look at how the writers are using this extreme twist, a planned pregnancy apparently, to guarantee she sticks around.
I love that contrast. Yeah, a character who is maybe just disposable utility versus one who is now, seemingly indestructible. So today's focus is crystal clear. Thomas Forrester's exit, we're figuring out if he was essentially, a highly paid temp worker, and Luna Nozawa's seemingly unstoppable run, despite a criminal rap sheet so long, it really, really stretches belief.
It does.
We need to understand the strategic thinking behind these two completely opposite directions.
Precisely. We're moving from what looks like the clinical execution of a temporary arc straight into the explosive chaos of guaranteed long-term drama. When we pull back the curtain on these kinds of character management decisions, the financial, the contractual, the creative constraints guiding the show become startlingly clear, especially for a show like B&B with its famously small cast.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with Thomas Forrester, Matt Watkinson. Now, for the viewers who follow closely, the wait for Thomas to come back was pretty substantial, bit more than a year, right? After that major cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was.
And the moment he showed up again, the sources we have flagged his return as suspicious from the jump. Let's dig into why.
Okay, yeah, we really have to rewind a bit to get the context of that initial departure. Think back to July 2024. Thomas was right in the middle of some peak romantic drama. He was planning that big, highly anticipated wedding with Paris Buckingham. It was all set, Forrester Mansion, and crucially, his son, Douglas Forrester, was there, really enthusiastic about planning their new family future.
Right, Douglas was key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then, in a truly classic soap move, Hope Logan shows up, begs him to leave Paris, come back to her. Thomas refuses.
The ultimate rejection. And then kind of the ultimate letdown for viewers because the sources detail how instead of some huge climactic wedding or an explosive fight, Thomas, Paris, and Douglas just vanished. Yeah, no wedding, no explanation, just silence for a year. It really felt like a dropped plot thread, didn't it?
It was a massive narrative pause, a huge question mark left hanging. And now he's back, less than 6 months later, it seems. And the sources are already suggesting he's back in his bags again.
Already? Wow.
Yeah. This kind of revolving door treatment, especially for a legacy character like Thomas, it immediately signals, temporary assignment, not a genuine character comeback.
Okay, and we have 4 major kind of hard-to-dispute red flags that the sources pointed out, suggesting this is definitely a limited-time thing. Let's start with red flag number 1, the missing child, Douglas.
Right. This is like a classic indicator of non-commitment from the writers. Thomas came back entirely alone. Just him. Now, the split with Paris, the sources say that's completely plausible, maybe even strategically advantageous, right? Makes him single again, available for conflict.
Sure.
But the key, the undeniable red flag, is the absence of his son, Douglas. Douglas is the narrative anchor.
Yeah.
He connects Thomas to the core emotional weight to the show Hope, Liam, all those custody battles.
So if they were really bringing Thomas back, integrating him properly, Douglas would almost be mandatory.
Absolutely. Think about the logistics, the narrative cost.
Yeah.
If Thomas was being brought back permanently for a real run, Douglas would have returned. even if just for a brief storyline.
Like a few episodes.
Yeah, maybe a few emotional scenes, maybe before getting conveniently shipped off to a boarding school storyline for a few years, which soaps love to do. But children, especially legacy children like Douglas, they're the living proof of a character's deep commitment to the show's world, to the canvas, leaving him behind in Paris. That strongly indicates the writers have zero intention of using Thomas for any deep, long-term family drama. It confirms his time back in LA is, well, probably non-permanent. He just doesn't have the necessary narrative baggage for a contract player right now.
Okay, this is where we get into the real insider baseball, I guess. Red flag number 2 is maybe the most concrete proof of all. The contract listing in the credits. This isn't speculation. This is like structural evidence.
This is truly where it gets really interesting for the soap opera strategists among us. Because the credit roll in The Bold and the Beautiful, it's not random. It's basically a financial and contractual flowchart laid out for everyone to see.
Okay.
They run the credits, once or twice a week usually, and the order is gospel. It tells you who's who in terms of commitment.
Walk us through that structure again, because this feels crucial for understanding how locked in a character is.
Sure. So after the directors and writers, you get the contract players. These are the actors whose salaries, whose appearances are guaranteed. They are the true lifeblood of the show, right? Listed alphabetically.
Okay, contract first, alphabetical.
Yep. Then, once that alphabetical list is done, they restart the alphabet and list the recurring actors. These are the actors paid per episode. Called in when the storyline needs them, but they have no guaranteed long-term future on the show.
Right, so where does Matt Atkinson land? What do the credits actually show?
Matt Atkinson, playing Thomas Forrester, is positioned squarely, undeniably in the recurring section. He's the very first recurring actor listed, actually. Appears right before Jennifer Garais, who plays Donna Logan, and Naomi Matsuda, Lee Finnegan. He gets that first recurring spot just because his last name starts with A.
Wow. So not at the top with the guaranteed players.
Not at all. It's a definitive contractual signal, a flashing light saying recurring status.
And contrast that with the contract players. Who are we seeing listed first in that block, signaling their permanence?
The contract players, the ones with guaranteed storylines, long-term commitments, they're in that top tier. You see Kimberlyn Brown, Sheila Carter, Rebecca Budig, Taylor Hayes, Scott Clifton, Liam Spencer. The sources are crystal clear on this. If Thomas was being brought back in a meaningful way, meaning a multi-year commitment, a real storyline, he would be listed right alongside them in that contract section.
But he's not.
He is not. The credit list is the definitive on-screen signal that Thomas's current run is temporary.
I had no idea the credit order was such a guaranteed giveaway. That's a really remarkable insight into the show's mechanics.
It really reflects the hard economics of daytime drama. The production needs to know who is guaranteed to show up week after week. And the moment an actor drops to recurring status, well, everyone in the industry knows their time is negotiable, their future uncertain.
Okay. Moving on to red flag number 3, the practical lack of storyline space. This seems more like just a creative constraint, right?
It is. It's an issue of, well, narrative inventory, you could say, and necessary screen time. Who is Thomas actually meant to interact with long-term right now? Historically, his central obsession, his main romantic foil, is Hope Logan.
Of course.
But Hope, she is completely locked up in a major high-stakes storyline currently.
Right. She's torn between Liam, her ex, and Carter Walton, her fiancé. That's eating up massive amounts of emotional bandwidth on the show.
Exactly. Which means, pretty unequivocally, there is no Thope reunion coming anytime soon. The sources confirm this blockage. It's just not on the cards right now.
So if not Hope, then who?
Well, that's the question. Realistically, there just aren't any other single ladies around for Thomas who could sustain the kind of high-level drama needed for a contract player.
Sure.
His return wasn't driven by some major new romantic entanglement, which is often the fuel, for a long-term soap residency. He's sort of structurally redundant for romance at the moment.
And finally, red flag number 4. This one addresses a frustration I think a lot of longtime viewers and critics share. The climax that became a fizzle. This seems to speak directly to the writer's intentions for this particular arc.
Oh, this was, infuriating to watch for some, and the sources absolutely highlighted as evidence that Thomas's return was purely functional, not foundational.
So the confrontation between Thomas and Brooke.
It was built up hugely. Thomas was expressing all this outrage on behalf of his mother, Taylor, ready to throttle Brooke, the sources say, for stealing Ridge Forrester.
Okay.
The sources describe the scene build up vividly. Thomas literally had his hands on Brooke, looked ready to do something crazy. Just should have been the explosive legacy-defining moment of his return arc.
It was definitely set up for a big boom, a major turning point. But what did we actually get instead?
A spectacular fizzle, a real letdown. Ridge intervened, right? And instead of a massive fallout or a permanent rupture between Thomas and Brett, maybe Thomas getting arrested, there was just this quick, like 5-minute conversation. Brooke and Ridge bonded over her past near-death experience in Italy. Remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
And then somehow, without any logical emotional transition, Brooke took Thomas's hand, they hugged it out, and the sources described them as instantly being cool. Just like that. Over.
Hey, hang on. If that confrontation with Brooke was such a disappointment, wasn't the point of his return kind of ruin? Why wouldn't they risk a bigger explosion if Thomas was only temporary anyway? Wouldn't that be more dramatic?
See, that's the critical insight here. The sources cite this exact thing as a major frustration with Brad Beal's writing style sometimes, building things way up to a climax, only to deliver an anticlimax or a fizzle.
Okay.
But when you apply this placeholder theory we're talking about, the reason becomes much clearer. The scene's purpose wasn't really to launch Thomas into some new permanent direction. It was just to clean up and neutralize that lingering resentment from the past, so that the main storyline, the Ridge and Brooke reunion, could move on smoothly without him causing long-term problems. They needed the outrage expressed, sure, but they couldn't afford a long-term conflict stemming from it, because the actor was temporary.
So it was just a cheap narrative resolution to tie off a loose end before he leaves again?
Essentially, yes. A quick fix.
So all 4 flags really point to the same conclusion. Thomas is out, or going out soon. This leads directly to the why of it all, which is the strategic use of actors in the high-pressure world of daytime.
Exactly. This is the cornerstone of the placeholder theory we've been touching on. Thomas's return was essential, maybe, but inherently temporary. A guest arc, basically.
Okay.
He was needed to fill a very specific strategic narrative vacuum, one created by a key player's personal leave.
Tell us about that void he was filling. Who was missing?
The show desperately needed someone, a Forrester, specifically to express legitimate outrage on behalf of Taylor Hayes over that unexpected, very rapid Ridge and Brooke reunion.
Right. Taylor needed someone in her corner.
Absolutely. Taylor needed a family defender to vocalize the anger that, frankly, a lot of the audience was probably feeling too. The writer needed to inject that immediate family resentment into the plot to make the reunion feel earned, not just waved through.
But the obvious person for that role?
Steffi Forrester. Taylor's fiercest and most reliable defender. She would normally be front and center in that fight. The problem was Steffi was unavailable.
And we know why Steffi was unavailable. Jacqueline McInnes Wood, who plays Steffi, was on maternity leave after having, kid number 5? Which is incredible, the balance she strikes, but it meant a major void on the canvas at a critical time.
A huge void. And it had to be filled immediately to keep that Ridgebrook reunion from feeling too easy, too unopposed. So therefore, Thomas was brought back purely as a placeholder for his sister, Steffi.
Wow.
He served as a temporary stand-in, injected the necessary family outrage until the primary talent, Steffi, could return.
That really requires a professional understanding of the business, doesn't it? To step in, deliver that required outrage, that specific emotion, and then just step out when the main person comes back. It's kind of a thankless role, but necessary for the show's flow.
It truly is. And Matt Atkinson delivered the emotional punch needed to carry that family conflict during Steffi's absence. And the strategic timing now just confirms the end of his utility, really.
Because Steffi's back.
Steffi Forrester is confirmed to be back filming now. She's on set.
Right.
So since Steffi will soon be back on our screens, ready to express the family's strong opposition to Brooke, the narrative need for Thomas as that placeholder, it's officially gone.
His time on the clock has expired.
Pretty much. The sources say we should expect Thomas's departure to happen very soon after Steffi's return actually begins airing. The timing will likely be quite close.
Okay, so the writing team needs to orchestrate a clean, fast exit for a legacy character they just brought back. They can't just have him vanish into thin air again like last time, right?
No, that would be too sloppy, too unsatisfying.
So what is the proposed exit strategy? The one that provides that sort of professional narrative ending, that sliver of closure you mentioned.
Right, first let's define that term again, sliver of closure. It's basically a narrative technique. It's designed to satisfy viewers just enough so the character can be put on the shelf, basically, without causing immediate fan uproar or confusion.
Okay.
It cleans up any lingering plot threads tied directly to their most recent return. It's like a narrative mop-up operation.
Gotcha. A quick tidy up before they go.
Precisely. The sources theorize Thomas will follow Ridge's advice from that recent conversation. Head back to France to be with Douglas to get his life back on track.
Okay, makes sense.
This wraps up the immediate loose end of his unexplained solo return, right? He's going back to his child and, presumably, a more stable life away from the LA drama.
That's practical, and it's an emotionally understandable reason for him to leave LA, minimizing any new drama around his exit itself.
And there's likely one more necessary final gesture. Something to connect his departure seamlessly to Steffi's re-entry onto the canvas.
Which would be?
The sources suggest Thomas might stop to see Steffi on his way out of town. This scene would serve a clear purpose. It allows him to explain that their father, Ridge, married Brooke, so that Steffi isn't blindsided or shocked when she finally returns and finds out.
Ah, so he literally hands off the family drama baton to his sister?
Exactly. It perfectly solidifies the placeholder theory. The baton is literally being passed from brother back to sister. His job is done.
And this kind of exit, this sliver of closure approach, according to the source material, it actually mirrors a previous notable strategic departure, right? Confirming this is kind of a pattern.
Yes. The blueprint they seem to be following here is the exit of Wyatt Spencer, played by Darren Brooks.
Okay, I remember that.
When Wyatt was written off for what turned out to be a good long while, the writers provided him with exactly that. A last scene or two, then gone. He was given a short wrap-up, I think, with his mother Quinn and maybe Liam, and then he simply moved away. It gave viewers that necessary sliver of closure before the character's long absence. It's a clean, quiet way to get rid of a utility character without killing them off or creating some big, unresolved cliffhanger that demands immediate follow-up.
Fascinating analysis of the tactical, almost clinical use of Thomas Forrester. Okay, now we have to shift gears completely, because if Thomas's exit is a clinical exercise in narrative utility, our next topic, Luna Nozawa, represents the absolute opposite extreme, a character whose survival seems to defy all narrative logic.
Yeah, we move from a character who was, it seems, intentionally disposable, at least for now, to a character who is currently being shielded from consequences by a truly staggering amount of plot armor. Luna Nozawa, played by Lisa Yamada, she's amassed a crime sheet that is just astonishing for a relatively new character, especially when initially presented as sort of a heroine.
The sources are incredibly blunt about this, aren't they? They list her alleged actions so rapidly, and we kind of need to pause just to process the shock factor here, especially for a show that usually keeps its outright mayhem focused on a few core villains like Sheila.
Yeah, the sources summarize Luna pretty starkly as a double murderer who just shot Liam and Sheila, also tried to shoot Steffi, and just molested Will Spencer. Now, we need to be careful here.
Definitely.
These are narrative allegations and dramatic interpretations from the sources based on complex, often morally gray events within the show's plot. But the sheer volume and severity of these alleged actions are staggering.
Specifically regarding that molested Will Spencer claim, that requires really careful handling, contextually.
Absolutely. The sources use that term, likely because the action described within the storyline was the sexual assault of Will, while Luna was apparently under the influence of something, maybe drugs, maybe those special mints, maybe alcohol. It's a bit unclear.
Yeah.
But it led to a profound moment of violation and confusion for Will.
Right.
For the audience, this crime alone, regardless of the, nuanced context of intoxication or intent, should logically be unforgivable. It should lead directly to serious legal repercussions for the character.
So the general consensus then, given this litany of alleged actions shooting people assault, is that she really should be going to prison right now, like storyline-wise?
Logically, plot-wise, she absolutely should. There's almost no way around it based on standard narrative consequences. But here is the prediction, based on the writer's known methodology. Brad Bill is just getting started with Luna.
Just getting started after all that.
That's what the sources predict. She's expected to receive a huge redemption arc. And get this would apparently be her second one already, which tells you how much the actress and the character are intended to stick around long term.
Wow, a second redemption arc. And the high drama leading up to this big twist was clearly designed to maximize the shock, right? We saw immediate, intense conflict this week.
Right. We had that really explosive scene where Leigh Finnegan, Luna's own mother, is actually choking Luna. This is the moment where the family tension just reaches its absolute breaking point. Bill Spencer and Will intervene. They stop the physical assault.
Yeah.
But critically, and this is important for the setup, Bill, and we'll still want to see Luna in prison.
They haven't softened.
Not at all. They have not been swayed by any appeals to sympathy or family ties yet. This intentional resistance from the good guys is vital, narratively speaking, because it sets the stage for the only thing powerful enough that could possibly stop the immediate drive toward justice.
Okay.
The sources are certain.
Yeah.
Despite Bill and Will's resolve right now, that resolve, well, the quote is doubt that's going to happen, meaning prison is unlikely.
And this also touches on something else, maybe a strategic narrative move. Bell sometimes strategically uses villains like Sheila Carter, right, to make other characters' actions look comparatively less severe.
That's a really powerful point, and likely intentional. By having Sheila Carter, the actual contract villain, return and commit these outrageous acts seemingly constantly, Luna's actions, while objectively horrific, might be viewed by some characters, or maybe the writers hope the audience sees them, through the lens of, well, she's not Sheila.
Right. It lowers the baseline.
Exactly. This kind of subtle narrative mitigation, comparing her to the ultimate evil, might be seen as a necessary step before introducing the ultimate plot shield.
Okay, so the narrative hurdle is immense.
Wow.
How do you prevent a character with a crime sheet this long from facing prison? The answer, as confirmed by B&B spoilers and our sources, is the ultimate soap opera game changer.
It is the ultimate soap opera-specific plot shield. Luna is pregnant.
Knew it, or suspected it anyway.
Yeah, and apparently this wasn't an accident. The sources state she had just peed on a stick at Remy Price in Deacon's apartment, confirming the pregnancy herself. That positive test stick is in her purse, and it is expected to fall out during the struggle with Leigh. The perfect, dramatic, high-stakes reveal right in the middle of the confrontation.
Wow. And the sources suggest a very, very dark motive here. Luna actually intended this pregnancy. This wasn't a mistake. This was a strategic move on her part, hoping for this exact outcome to escape justice.
Yes, the sources are quite clear on this interpretation. Luna intended this pregnancy as she did the deed with Will, specifically hoping for this outcome.
Okay, that elevates the stakes exponentially, doesn't it?
It really does. It isn't just a consequence of her actions. It's presented as a calculated weapon, something used to manipulate the Spencer family and avoid incarceration. It puts an incredibly sinister and desperate spin on her entire relationship with Will, looking back.
So Luna uses this planned pregnancy as leverage against Bill, against the whole legal system threatening her. How is that plea structured? What does she say?
Official B&B spoilers outline the dramatic plea quite clearly. Luna will beg Bill not to send her back to prison. And then she drops the bomb. She declares he's going to be a grandfather, claiming Will is the father.
The grandchild card.
The moment she says grandchild, the entire framework shifts. It potentially moves from legal justice to family legacy. It immediately halts, or at least complicates, the discussion of jail time, because Bill's priorities might instantly change, or at least become conflicted.
But, I mean, given her recent lies and manipulations, Bill and Will shouldn't just believe her claim, right? Especially about the paternity. There must be doubt.
Oh, they absolutely won't just believe her. Massive doubts are expected. And that's where the structure of this twist is actually kind of genius from a writing perspective.
How so?
Because Leigh Finnegan, Luna's mother, conveniently becomes central to the plot right here. Leigh is a doctor, perfectly positioned to perform a paternity test on the developing fetus. The sources point out that this provides a verifiable, objective mechanism within the story to confirm or deny Luna's claim. It turns the pregnancy from just a claim into a legitimate, complex, long-running storyline that could easily last the better part of a year. Testing, results, reactions.
And this crazy plan may actually work, the sources say, because it hits Bill and Katie Logan right where they live. Their sense of family legacy, their protectiveness, especially when it comes to children or grandchildren.
The plan is strategically targeted right at the Spencer family's core values. Bill and Katie Logan are famously protective, fiercely so, and they are probably not going to want their grandchild born behind bars, regardless of what they think of the mother or her actions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The sources suggest that even if Katie Logan initially says, "Let Luna rot," which is very possible, her maternal instincts, her likely desire for a grandchild, will eventually override her moral outrage.
So she might come around.
She may eventually suggest something like, okay, fine, she stays out of jail for now, but we'll just take the kid once the baby is born. The character's future longevity is now completely, inextricably linked to this baby, effectively using the child as a permanent plot shield against her own devastating crimes.
Wow. This single pregnancy reveal instantly creates just an enormous ripple effect, doesn't it?
Wow.
Devastating poor young Will and pulling in almost every major family unit on the canvas.
It creates a massive strategic vortex for storylines. Poor Will Spencer will be, yes, devastated by the news, realizing he might have been used as part of this scheme. And now he has the horrible task of telling Electra Forrester this horrible thing.
Oh, that's rough.
And the pregnancy instantly becomes the central storyline involving Katie, Bill, Luna herself, Lai, the perpetually interested Sheila Carter.
Sheila will definitely have thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. And a very ticked-off Deacon Sharp.
Deacon being ticked off makes total sense, as Luna shot his friends Liam and Sheila. But we also have two other potentially crucial characters mentioned in the sources here, Remy Price and this new character, Deke.
Yes.
And the sources have a pretty high expectation that Deke, played by Harrison Kahn, is actually Deacon's son, which would anchor him firmly in the middle of this drama.
This is a major structural clue, potentially. Deke's debut scene was very telling. He recognized Luna immediately and was very indignant, the sources say, precisely because she killed two of his dad's friends.
His dad's friends.
If Deke is indeed Deacon's son, he becomes another vital emotional investment in this whole saga. It adds a layer of generational conflict to the current plot, involving Deacon's past and future.
And that's where that casting insight comes in, right? The sources even dug up a visual comparison, suggesting the casting team was deliberately aiming for a paternal resemblance, which tells you maybe the depth of the planning involved here.
Yes, exactly. The sources compared a photo of Harrison Kahn, who plays Deke, to a photo of a very young Sean Kanan, who plays Deacon Shark now. Now, Kanan also famously played A.J. Quartermain on General Hospital years ago.
Right.
And the look they apparently achieved for Deke is quite reminiscent of Kanan's younger self from those days. This feels like a very intentional move by the casting team, a visual hint to suggest that connection.
So it reflects the writer's commitment to building out Deacon's family unit.
And further embedding Luna's controversial drama right within it, ensuring she stays relevant, tangled up with core families for years to come.
So Luna's pregnancy isn't just a shocking twist, it's a meticulously crafted strategic maneuver, designed to absorb and sustain drama across multiple families, guaranteeing her character survives against frankly impossible odds. #tag outro.
So yeah, we've tracked two fundamentally opposing narrative strategies today, haven't we? Both deployed by the same writing team, Brad Beal and company, and both really illustrate the extreme pragmatism that's often required in the world of daytime drama.
Right. On one hand, we have Thomas Forrester's return. It looks like a clinical, maybe cost-effective maneuver, designed specifically to be a functional placeholder for his sister Steffi while she was away. His imminent, probably clean exit back to France provides that necessary sliver of closure before he gets shelved again, proving that sometimes utility trumps longevity, especially if a main contract player is temporarily absent.
And then on the complete other hand, we have Luna Nozawa, a character who logically maybe should be out of commission, written off, facing consequences.
Yeah.
But instead, she's being granted ultimate longevity and a really controversial second chance.
Fueled entirely by this desperate, apparently planned pregnancy that acts as the ultimate plot shield.
Exactly. Granting her protection from legal consequences and ensuring years of long-term controversial drama. So Brad Beal is simultaneously using character absence as a tool for efficiency with Thomas and pregnancy as a tool for dramatic longevity with Luna.
So what does this all mean for the show's strategic methodology overall? What's the big picture takeaway?
I think it means that the writer, Brad Beal, uses characters for very distinct purposes, sometimes quite pragmatically. Thomas was brought back for immediate functional emotional impact, to express that necessary outrage and resolve some lingering conflicts quickly.
Get the job done.
Yeah. Luna, meanwhile, is being groomed for maximum high-stakes controversy, effectively resetting the ethical baseline of what the audience, or maybe just the network, will tolerate, using the most powerful device in the soap opera toolbox, a baby. It illustrates a real willingness to take extreme risks with character behavior, maybe for the sake of long-term dramatic payoff, even if it really tests the limits of viewer belief and suspension of disbelief.
Okay, so we analyzed the strategic use of absence and return, noting that Thomas's exit seems poised to mirror Wyatt Spencer's. But here's a final thought, building on that placeholder idea. Thomas himself was filling the temporary void left by Steffi. So if Thomas is shelved again, maybe for another year or more, and let's say Steffi herself had to take another absence down the line, what past character absence, or whose current role, might Thomas himself be filling when he eventually returns again? Is there someone else on the canvas whose primary utility he could temporarily replace next time?
Ooh, that's a good question. Who else needs a temporary stand-in?
That's definitely something for you to mull over as you watch the credits roll next time.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the high-stakes, sometimes ruthless world of soap opera strategy.
We'll catch you on the next one.